Hold on. What was that? Kalstar are a compound race created from the union of humanity and renegade spirits from the plane of dreams. Half human, half spirit. Hold on. Oh, yeah. We're going to do that. Hello, my dear viewers. Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons Character Conversions. I am Drehan. On this channel, I talk about all things gaming. And for this series in particular, I am converting characters from all forms of fiction into playable characters for your next campaign, or for you as the Dungeon Master to throw at your party. This video will be going over one of my childhood favorites, Danny Phantom, the half-boy, half-ghost created by Butch Hartman. Now, for a while, I would never have considered Danny Phantom to be a playable character in Dungeons & Dragons, because none of his powers matched up. There was no playable version of Danny Phantom. You could play Danny Fenton just fine, but having his ghost powers was a big no. That was until I found this combo of race and class. Now, for the most part, I will be trying to get characters I convert to match up with this D&D counterpart system. However, with Danny Phantom, I cannot get exactly what is needed to be a true Danny Phantom character. I can only get as close as I possibly can with the build set and Danny's lore. I am able to match up a few things, such as his energy blast or his what was it called? Chronokinesis? His ice powers. I'm able to get those just fine. However, I'll have to toy around just a bit with that. So, without further ado, let's get into what I think Danny Phantom would be like in a Dungeons & Dragons style. Of course, we're going to have to start off with the character race. What race do we want Danny? Well, judging by the intro I made, you can already tell that we are going to be using Kalashtar. Now, the Kalashtar have a pretty good set of features. The Severed from Dreams feature, in particular, is very interesting because it allows you to dream without dreaming. In other words, you're not affected by spells that would cause you to dream. You can still be put to sleep, according to this feature, but you do not enter the dream plane when you dream. Instead, you dream of the memories of the spirit you're connected with, your Kurai. Your Kurai's memories are what you dream about, which is very interesting. Now, our first choice here is Psychic Glamour. We're able to pick from two skills. I chose Insight. No particular reason, I just chose Insight for this build. Moving on, our stats, we get a 30 feet of speed. Our alignment is going to be lawful neutral because this is still Danny. He is technically human. He'll try to follow the rules as best he can, but he's not going to be precise. His age is going to be somewhere between 14 and 16 for this particular build. You can do what you want with yours. You can make yours a full-fledged adult. But we're sticking with the theme song, because he's just 14. Ability score modifiers are Wisdom, Charisma, and one of choice. Now, this will be important for later on down the road, so I'm not going to choose it right now. The languages we get to speak are Common, Kurai, which is our renegade spirit's language, and then one language of choice. Now, this doesn't exactly affect your character, so you can pick whatever you deem suitable. Most likely Elvish or maybe even Orc or whatever. Anything that you think would be suitable for your campaign. You also get a nice set of stats here. Saving throws, you get a Strength and Wisdom. Skills, I chose Acrobatics and Insight. Moving on to your background, we're going to be going over the Haunted One, which is one of my particular favorites. We get the Heart of Darkness. Skill proficiencies is going to be Arcana and Investigation, and we are choosing Undercommon as our language. And this is very suitable for the class we picked, which is the Blood Hunter. One of my favorite classes. So moving swiftly on, we're going to our equipment now. This is just the equipment we receive. Some of these are chosen, like the scimitar, because of, well, Danny did use a sword in one episode, a couple episodes actually, but I went with the scimitar because of how we're going to be using his stats later. Another item we were able to choose what it was our Gothic trinket. Mine, I chose the little black book that records your dreams and yours alone when you sleep. So essentially, this little book will record each memory you recall when you dream. Now, as you can see, there are a couple items that overlap from the Explorer's Pack and your Monster Hunter's Pack. So those will actually stack together and be written out like so. Which isn't too bad. You got 13 torches, 10 days of rations, and 2 tinderboxes. Very interesting. And some of these items don't make much sense for you to have, and you don't have any gold. You are essentially broke at this point. Which is fine because you're Danny Fenton. Most likely you're already on the run, so you didn't have time to get any of your gold. Moving on, we now get onto our stats. And I'm using the point buy system for all of these character creations just to demonstrate what their stats could be. You might use a different system for getting your stats, but this is what I'm going with. Our lowest stat is going to be strength at a 9. Dexterity is going to be the one that I choose primarily for this main conversion as a 15. Constitution's at 14 right now, so is Wisdom. Intelligence is a 10, and Charisma is at 9. But because of our Kalishtar bonus, we get a +1 to each of these stats. Charisma, Wisdom, and I chose Dexterity, like I said. But that will change when I go over a certain option we can go through. Moving on, now we can calculate our armor class and our hit points. Our armor class, we have the studded leather armor, so we are able to add our dexterity modifier with no maximum. So we have a nice 15 AC. Our hit points is going to be 10 plus our constitution modifier, which is a 2. So we only have 12 hit points at the moment, but that's not too bad. Moving on to our features for our current level of Blood Hunter. At level 1, we have Hunter's Bane, and we have our Crimson Rite, which I chose Rite of the Frozen, which means when we use our Crimson Rite ability on one of our weapons, that weapon will gain an additional 1d4 cold damage. Yes, I know it's not the best thing, and it's not as close to Danny's powers as I probably could have gotten, but this is as close as I can get currently. Now, if we move on, we get a nice level up. At level 2, we have more options to go with. We have the fighting style and the blood maledict. This gives us the fighting style dueling and the blood curse of the fending rights. I chose dueling just to give us an extra edge on our damage. Since our scimitar is able to do only a limited amount of damage, we need to get as much damage in as possible. So this will work just fine. More experience, another level, and more choices to be made. I am going with Blood Hunter Order, the Order of the Ghost Slayer. Right on the nose, I must say. Some of you might not find it funny that I choose the Order of the Ghost Slayer, but I find it fitting. Now, with Order of the Ghost Slayer, you get Rite of the Dawn, which means you get radiant right damage. And if you use this against an undead, that undead creature takes an additional right damage equal to an additional radiant damage equal to your wisdom modifier, which is pretty nice. Moving on to level 4, we get a split in paths. Now, there are 2 rules that some dungeon masters can go with for characters. The most famous being the multi-class rule, but we also have the optional feats rule. And of course, you can go with neither of these options and just continue on your Ghost Slayer Blood Hunter. But we'll go ahead and talk about the optional feats rule first. With the optional feats rule, you can choose the Magic Initiate feat. When you do, pick Warlock as your spell class. With it, you'll get Eldritch Blast, Chill Touch, and Armor of Agathis. At least these are the options that are preferable. Some more damage for your cold. Your Eldritch Blast will be your Energy Blast. And then Armor of Agathis, because I really couldn't think of any other spells that would fit, so I just chose it. to give some more armor class. Moving on to the multi-class feature, we are going to have to change Danny's stats. So instead of that extra bonus to his dexterity, we're changing it to his intelligence. And the stats you would get from this level 4 will go to your intelligence. Now, if you just go with no optional rules, just add the stats as shown here. Now, let's go ahead and increase once more in level. At level 5, we're going to choose a new level and a new class. So I chose Mystic. More specifically, the Soul Knife. And I went with the Psionic Weapon Talent and the Energy Beam Discipline. And just because it was as close as I can get to Danny's powers using these skills. And I think the Soul Knife is pretty interesting. No, it doesn't relate to Danny's powers, but it's still pretty cool. Now, only take the multi-class feature if the DM allows it. If you do take this option, only do 2 levels in Mystic. We want to leave the other 18 levels for our Ghost Slayer Blood Hunter. Because at level 18, we get some pretty nice features and abilities. Now, that is my Danny Phantom in Dungeons & Dragons style. But before I log off for now, I want to go over some final recommendations for your character, if you were to play with it, in this style. So first off, the harrowing event that you get from your Haunted One is more or less your background. What caused you to become a Haunted One? What event pushed you to become what you are now? And the one I chose here is the operation that has haunted your family for generations now haunts you. You don't know what it wants, and it won't leave you alone. Now, of course, this is not exactly what happens in the show, but this is close enough for us to roleplay as Danny Phantom. Next, with the Kalishtar quirk, you feel a strong drive to protect the innocent, which is Danny's whole deal. Alright, next we have characteristics. I went with these few traits just to build on my Danny Phantom character. You do not have to take these if you do not want them. But I felt that these fit Danny rather well. Now, items to obtain. You do not have to acquire these items, but because we didn't get certain abilities from our class or race, I feel it is necessary to obtain these items. One being the Greater Silver Sword. Now, I found this one rather interesting. Let me go ahead and pull up where it comes from. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Let's see. Where was it? It is a very interesting sword, and I felt the need for it to be a Danny Phantom item. And this would definitely work if you gained the mystic levels, because you would be able to use it. Greater Silver Sword. It is a weapon, a great sword, and you need to attune to it if you have psychic abilities. Well, you have to have psionic abilities in order to attune to it. And the reason why I thought it was fitting was because if you score a critical hit with this sword against a creature's astral body, you can cut the silvery cord that tethers the target to its material body instead of dealing damage. I felt that this was interesting because it sounded like it would well, my explanation is basically a kind of an exorcist like action, and Denny has been shown to do that, getting rid of the ghost out of another person's body when they overshadow or possess. Of course, that's probably not what they meant with this item, but that is what I took from it. Now, the Iron Flask is our Fenton Thermos. With it, it can capture a creature, any creature that we want, really, and trap it inside the flask, mostly just demons or celestials. But you can do this against an undead creature as well, if you so wished. At least, I believe so. I just found it funny that this was closely resembled the Fenton Thermos. Now, there are two items that you can use for your invisibility, which is either the Cloak of Invisibility or the Ring of Invisibility. Because what is Danny without the power of turning invisible? Now, with the Ghost Slayer Blood Hunter, you can walk through walls, but no disappearing or flying. Which is why you're going to need one of these two items and your winged boots, which will give you temporary flight. Now for your Kurai, this is the spirit that is attached to the Kalistar. The Kurai name that I chose was Halfa. Of course, I wanted to change the spelling of it, but this is just what I wanted to do. Have a funny sounding name that was similar to Halfa. Like how Danny was called in the show during that one episode. The Halfa. Now, that is all the time I've got for today. I do hope you enjoyed. This has been Drehan, and I am offline.